Yeah, yeah, sure. So, yeah, a lot of learning for me. One thing which I definitely realized is why you do a short version and not big. I attempted something and I realized it's just not, like a lot of corrections to do if the proportions, if you kind of expand it to the full page versus a small page, it's easier to focus. So I attempted this, but a lot of learnings for me in this vis-a-vis, what we do in the smaller one. So I just
Yeah.
thought I'd share this.
That's nice. Yeah. So this brings me to a point that when we do portraiture,
Ah,
often the recommended size for a portrait is no larger than the actual head. Unless, of course, you're going to make a portrait that is going to go on a grand scale. That's a completely different uh, topic, I suppose, or treatment of the topic. So in this case, it's best to keep it smaller than or about as much as 8 inches, no more than that. Uh, so there is something about making this a proportion bigger than its actual size in which we lose perspective.
mm,
So yeah, so you might get one size fine. So you can blow up maybe one eye, you get it fine, but then all the other proportions can be perceived wrong by us. And so in that case, if you do have to make a very large scale portrait, it's best to grid it out and then draw everything on the grid.
yeah.
Sorry, something's up with my Wi-Fi. Right. So, if you need to blow up, that's what I was saying. If you need to blow up and want to make something bigger, then it's best to make a grid and make a grid of even measurements, not like the grid that we do, because there you need to know exactly how many of the squares or parts of the squares you need to move in either direction to make the other. So you literally count in to make the other features on the face. And then to some extent, you get a better likeness.
Yeah, yeah.
So
But
I tried it without any reference. Like I was just sitting and sketching. So I on a paper that way. I think
yeah,
so I've sent it on the group also. And
that's
this,
very nice.
yeah,
So this, yeah, what is your reaction to the pictures? They're very
I
nice.
liked it. I think so. In the group I've sent it, the first version of the girl was really horrible. But you can see the first version, and I then corrected it afterwards.
Mhm.
So the first the first version looked something like this, if I can see.
Oh, wait a minute.
Yeah, it's
Yes.
nice.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I rubbed it off a little with the chin and all. I rubbed it off, and then I converted that into this.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, there she is.
I think it's very, even the hair is very nice. It's
Thank
really,
you.
yeah.
Tried to do something. First, it was flat also, so then I tried to correct it.
Yeah, I think you've put both versions in. Let me just
Yeah.
share it and then we can speak about it.
Yeah, both versions in. Yeah,
So
this
this is the earlier version.
earlier version. Yeah.
The next. Nice, not bad. It looks
I
like
like,
a makeover video, like the first. This is the
yeah.
before and this is the after.
Yeah, afterwards.
Right. Did you use any reference image for this?
No, I was actually sitting with my son and he was doing his homework,
Ah,
and I was sitting beside him and I was just trying to draw something.
nice. No, this is great practice. This is exactly how you have to move forward. The more faces you make, even if they are like this, you start seeing certain things that work, certain things that don't work, they stick out even more. So then
Okay.
you know what adjustments to make as we go along. Very nice. I like.
Thank you.
I love the eyes also. Very,
Thank you.
Yeah, very nicely done. Hi, Ashwita, are you on the board?
Yes.
Oh my God, look at that. This is the most fun. I'm going to keep this part of the video on YouTube so that it
Okay.
we know from wherever so many places people have done class.
True.
Yeah, this is really, I'm finding it very weird, but yeah.
Yeah,
But it's such fun.
I know. Yeah, it's very sweet. Okay. So today we will be doing the few more details of the face. And from here on, you will be able to see the specifics of shape and size and proportion of all the features. So today we're going to do eyes, and next week we will be doing the nose and mouth. And then eventually we'll put all of that together to make a face, hopefully the front and the side face as well, because what applies to one doesn't apply to another. So I have shared some images of eyes that I would like to go through. The eyes are the feature which make or can make or break your picture. Everything else is fine, but you can get it to a large extent. But 50% of your portrait illustration depends on how well you are able to convey the eye. Now, each of these has different types of eyes, which we can instantly recognize in them certain things about the person. We can often tell the gender, we can tell the age, we can tell the ethnicity. So just one feature and so many things are revealed to us. I have tried to share eyes from all sides because in each of them, you will be addressing them very differently. But to start with, I'm going to give you some proportions and some like a formula with which you will be able to at least position certain shapes on a blank page more accurately than otherwise. So we have to look at a few things that I will point out. Obviously, the shape of the eye itself, that comes first. Then we have the color and the position of the iris. Then the distance between the eye and the eyebrow, and then the shape of the eyebrow itself. These are the basic things that we need, only 4 things. And then in each of these, there are certain more details that we have to work towards. So what is the proportion of the, say the upper lid and the lower lid? Where exactly do you find them placed? Then what is how does the curve of the fold in the eye relate to the eye itself? And then what is the shape that you need for the eyebrow? How do we draw the individual eyebrows, the lashes, and so on and so forth? So I'm going to give you a formula to follow this, and then from there we will move on to making more details over here. Now remember, this time it's going to be a little intense. So we're going to go very slowly, as opposed to last week when we just did a few shapes and I've explained. I'll go over what we did last week as well, so you can remember that too. Here we have the proportion of the face. That's what we did. And I gave you a general idea of how the eye is a slit and the eyeball fits within that slit. The the shape of the fold and the distance between the eyebrow and the eye. This we have made this, it's the same formula that we're going to follow, but we are going to change it up a little bit and make it more, I guess, get the data from the reference images to fill this up more accurately. Now, since everyone in this class is right-handed, we are going to attempt the right eye of the picture, not the left eye. So for that, we will look at the third eye in the pictures that I've shared with you. Okay, so here, first we will just make this in rough so that you get to see what are the shapes involved. And then we will make a second eye below that with more accuracy. Okay, so I'm going to leave a little space on the top for the eyebrow. And I'm going to first start with a horizontal line, which is the eye, the length of the eye. Here I'm going to draw a curve on top, which is slightly rounder, and the curve below that is slightly shallow. But I won't join these two lines at the corners because this time we are trying to make a very realistic eye. Since we are drawing the right eye of the reference image, which technically is the left eye of the person, on the left side over here, we will make a thing where you have the tear gland inside. So it's a small U shape. It's very, very discreet. You don't, if you make it too large, it will start looking like you've got a swelling in the eye. Then this side is open, the top and bottom curves are not connected. But we will draw a membrane which comes like a rounded shape from the inside of that upper lid curve from both sides and then travels just above the bottom lid. The line is just above. So this is the thickness of the lid. Now within this, we have to position an eyeball, which is a perfect circle. So take your time in creating a perfect circle, of which about 1 or 1.5 mm is covered by the upper lid. So if you need to complete that circle so that you know that it is a perfect circle. Sometimes when we don't complete the top, you might make something that looks more like a flat oval. So the iris and the cornea together make something like a disc. You have a flat base or flattish base, which has the iris and the color, and a hole, which is the pupil actually from where inside goes the lens. In the Tuesday class, we had an ophthalmologist who cleared all my terminology. So what we see over here is often referred to as the cornea, and the colored bits will be the iris. And right in the center, we have the pupil, which is concentric to the cornea, always in the center. If it is not in the center, it will, especially when the eye is looking towards you, then it will indicate some kind of vision problem. Now, on this eye, to make it look more alive, we are going to put a highlight. And in this case, now we can put a highlight on the top right part of the visible part of the cornea and iris. This shape can change depending upon what is being reflected in the eye. But for the sake of this one exercise, we will just make it a gentle oval. Now, right above the eye is a fold. And that fold has the darkest line somewhere over here. It's often further away from the upper lid in the center. And as you bring this line down, you have to trail it off. That's very important. If you have a very bold line, it again looks very bad. And the same thing towards the side, you again trail it off so that it looks like the fold only exists till here, which is actually the case. Then we take a measurement of the height we have given to our eye from the upper lid to the lower lid and mark the same amount above the eye, maybe over here, where we will draw a horizontal line again, the same width perhaps as the first line that we've drawn. And this will mark a ballpark area for the eyebrow to come. So this is the distance I have taken from the upper lid to lower lid. Oops. Sorry, am I not, something's gone wrong with my device. Oh, wait a minute. Oh, just hang on. My phone just died.
Audible.
Yeah, so my phone had to be recharged and I connected it to the laptop and I forgot to connect it at this end. So the poor fellow has just given up. Give it 2 minutes. But in the meantime, I'm going to explain to you certain things about the eye. I've gone over some of it last week, but I find that there is so much that we can learn when about drawing the face or even the body if we give a little time to studying the anatomy. Now, there are lots of things, not just anatomy, also the evolution of how the body has come about. So the face is just a small part, but the entire body always has a story from where one thing came into another. In the face itself, did I tell you the purpose of the eyebrows last week? That was an interesting story. Similarly, the placement of the cheekbones and the eyebrow bone so that you don't hurt your eye. And there are lots of other things where things work the way they do work. So when you are drawing something, it's important to see where, why certain things are the way they are, and then you can start giving the features some distinct treatment. Like often I have seen when we are making faces, we somehow perceive the nose very differently. And often we make the nose either too wide or too long and try very hard to connect the nose to the eye. Like right now you can see that there is a shadow on my nose, but that shadow can become so intense that all the other features pale in comparison. So while you see a few things in the reference image, you should give them only that much importance. Most important things are the features, the way they are. But even in that, you should not give too much importance to the nostrils. You give importance to the nose and everything, that's fine, but don't make really dark nostrils. For some reason, we feel unless we make that the face will not look good. Similarly, when we move to the mouth, if we are showing the teeth, everyone is tempted to show each individual tooth, so that when the person is smiling, they really look ugly. So there is a way in which you can show that they have teeth, but it does not have to be distinctly drawn with lines. So the difference between seeing a reference image and drawing it, I would say you edit out about 20% of what you see. And then you only show it in the best, literally the best light possible. I'm going to check if my phone is on again. No, just give me a minute. Oops. Right. So now we come to the eyebrow, and the eyebrow is generally a little curved, but not a complete round. Like I explained the last time, the thicker portion of the eyebrow is towards the inside, towards the nose, and then you can draw, say, a vertical line. So you make like a sleeping T shape, and then you can take this line outward and then downward to some extent. So what we do not want is an arch like this. This will look like a roof over the eye. We don't want that. The arch must come at an angle. And like I explained last time, it's to soak up and direct the sweat down the side of the face. So if you make the arch come towards the corner of the eye, the sweat is going to go into the eye, and we are trying to avoid that. So there is going to be a gap, almost, if you can see, almost like a concentric circle outward over here from the corner of the eye and the curve of the lid and the curve of the eyebrow. You're on the right track. All right, now this is our basic formula. We got the shape of the eye, the fold of the eye, the eyebrow, distance between all of this is okay, and we got the cornea and iris. This is something that you can practice at all times, and you can keep changing these shapes. Change the width of the eye a little bit, make it slightly shorter, make the cornea, the upper lid slightly rounder if you want, this one rounder if you want, and see what kind of eye you can make. Now for shading this, like we did the last time, we will shade the entire iris a light color, including the pupil, but not the highlight. This is now the fun part. You can really practice your shading in this. Shali, I'm going to ask you to hold the book when you're drawing. This part will need a lot of finesse. All right. Okay, now once this is done, we have to visualize an oval shape towards the bottom, which will not have a dark shadow. And just from underneath the upper lid, you can start making a darker shadow that can come slowly towards the middle. But as it comes towards the middle, it becomes lighter and ends at that imagined or visualized oval shape. Now this looks like a glazed eye. Still no life in it. It has a highlight, but it can still look like a doll's eye. So here we will add, first we will add a little depth to the circle at the on the outside. And this circle is quite fuzzy. And from there, we can throw in a few lines towards the pupil, towards the lens in the center. Sorry again. Okay, so what I'm drawing now, let light one more time. So after I've done the shading, I darken the outside. And then from the outside dark lines, I'm throwing in a few lines inward. They're like little rays. but they are very subtle and they're all drawn at a perpendicular. This is where our geometry is going to come in handy. Perpendicular to the circular edge of the iris. Now, if you're not sure of whether or not you're doing it right, keep rotating the book. And this is the beautiful tangled texture of the iris. It works like the camera lens to allow a certain amount of light in. Now, depending upon how bright the surroundings are, the pupil can be really tiny if there's a very bright light, or normally it will be a good size. This is also very tiny. So when you're making this, I would suggest start darkening from the center towards the till you become comfortable with how big you need to make that. If you start from the outside in, sometimes you've made it so big that the person looks like they're on some medication or something. And we don't want that. Now, often when you're practicing, after you have drawn the colored up the iris, you might notice that either your eye has become too wide or too narrow. You start seeing more in the eye than before. So feel free to make adjustments. I'm not going to make any adjustments, but this is the point where you can make adjustments to the shape of the eye. Bring the edges a little closer if you need to, or take them a little further away. Now to fill up the lashes.
So just a question here, Aditi.
Yes.
You used on the top side the coloring, the shading you have done. The strokes are soft,
Yes.
and here it's more like pointed and perpendicular.
Yes. Yes. So that was just to create a shaded tone.
Yeah.
To give me darkness over there, but this is to actually create texture. So I've used the point of the pencil to make it more like a deeper texture, more visible.
And it needs to touch that center circle.
Yes, it
somehow.
can. It is supposed to touch the center circle.
Thanks.
Right. Now, the lashes also grow in an order of, I guess, rows of 2 or 3 lashes. So there's a thick section from where the lashes grow. When we are sketching or as beginners, we sketch the lashes only from one point, and that makes the eye again look very artificial. So, so for this, or I guess for that not to happen, we can just darken the area a little bit. This is also just a dark shadow. It's not really dark up here. It's our skin color. But because the lashes are there, this part often looks very dark. And you notice this, that when the people who don't have dark lashes, you will not have a shadow on top. Now, when we want to draw lashes, we do not draw lashes straight from here to here because the lashes are actually coming forward. And anything that comes forward becomes foreshortened. So like you can see my fingers. You know that these are my fingers, but they're not as long as they are in reality. So I need to just indicate that my fingers are over there. So when it comes to lashes, that indication comes in the form of just a line coming up like this. But it is not straight up. There's a little curve. And this curve in the center is very shallow, I guess. When you come towards the side, it becomes just a little more pronounced, very little pronounced. We're not going to draw C shapes here. And the same to the right, a little curve as the line starts and a slightly bigger line outward. So these lashes, when I show a lash this long, that actually means that this person is wearing makeup. Otherwise, you won't have lashes that come that far. You draw multiple lines from different points, but they all are radiating from the center and almost perpendicular to the imagined circle that the eyelid makes. The lashes on the side and the outside are longer, but please don't make them regular like that, one after the other, like railway tracks. In some places, they will bunch up, so you can make it that way. Even making lashes can be something you practice. And then to make them look more three-dimensional, you can reinforce the curve. So it's like the line is coming from the upper lid and then moving outward. So this bumpy line that is created when we draw the lashes is very natural. For the lower lid, it's the same. The lashes are pretty much in the same order, but they're obviously not as thick. So you will just draw a few lashes, not very even. And that is usually enough. The eyebrows are different from the eyes. We cannot draw the eyebrows in this manner. For the eyebrow, the direction of the hairs is up towards the center, and then they swiftly start turning towards the right. And as you come and turn the corner, they go sideways and actually turn down. So when you're drawing these, one strategy is to, in the center of this section, just shade this a little dark. Not too dark, just a shadow. And then when you're making the lines, make the lines like what I call, these are like infinite lines or pendulum lines. Imagine if you have attached your pencil to a pendulum. And as the pendulum comes down, it will make contact with paper. Then you get a dark line. And as the pendulum swings up, the line goes off. So it's almost like an infinite line. We do not see the start or the end of the line. So when you're making the eyebrows, you don't want it to look like this. This looks, unfortunately, this looks very like a Neanderthal eyebrow. Even if a person has thick eyebrows, make 5 lines to make it this dark instead of making such thick eyebrows. They just don't work. So start off with making a few lines like this and follow the order or the direction. That way you don't lose yourself in this space. Because as beginners, if you start making lines from one side, you don't even realize when it is that you've come all the way to this point and all your eyebrows are pointing straight up. That's like when you're doing makeup for the first time, or you brought one of those eyebrow things and they come with a comb and you just comb it all up in one direction. And then you can take the line a little outside of the margin that you have made. Thankfully, my eyebrows are going to become really thick, but that is the in thing these days. So they're not going to look too bad. So just to remember that when making the shape of the eyebrow, you can decide on the size or the border of the eyebrow based on how thick you need to make the eyebrows themselves, and draw that line a little inside so that you can draw these hairs on the outer edge of that lines, those lines that you've made. They're usually thicker around the front and in the center here. And because we've shaded it a little bit, we don't have those blank spots. So it doesn't look like there are bald spots. And then as you turn to the side, you can add some more hair, finer hair, and make the eyebrow end at one point. In this form, the eye looks very bare and very stark because we have absolutely no shadows given here. So like we have a highlight to the eye, there are certain places where you will see shadows. So one big highlight is over here because this place there's like a pad of skin that sticks out. So it doesn't receive too much shadow unless the face itself is in shadow. So there is a lot of shadow on the inner side of the eye, above the lid. And then there is a highlight somewhere over here, again, where the eyebrow, the upper fold of the lid puffs up. And then sometimes we have a very gentle line at the bottom for the lower lid. It's not a crease as much, or let's say it's not a fold as much as a crease. And we often avoid drawing it. This is one of those 40% of the lines that you should avoid making. Even if it is there on the face, if it's a young child, you don't make it like this. You can just shade it with the other stuff you're shading. Okay? This is basically it. This is the formula. And you can keep practicing this. Change the shape of the eyebrows. If you want, make it like a roof and see how that looks. That's up to you. The more you see it, the more you'll start noticing these different lines in the reference picture.
So here again, it's your stroke is a combination of line and coloring it soft, like holding the pencil softly. Like what I'm noticing in mine, for example, is it's, you know, the shape has this edge here is very clearly defined because I'm both for the eyelash and for the eyebrows.
Okay.
So I'm just wondering what is it that I need to do differently, especially for the eyebrows, because it almost feels like it's like those grass, how we draw.
Yeah.
That you're drawing it from one point and you know, it comes up. So
it's true. It's the same with me also.
It's just it's just the fluidity of the line. So this is the one line that you should practice, that pendulum-like line that when you're drawing, so it's not, obviously you can't keep drawing all lines like this. That's not how it works. So when you place your hand down, when you start the line, you actually start making the line in the air. You don't contact paper immediately. And then when you contact paper, it is very gradual. I'll show you how you can do this. Normally, when we start the line, we touch the paper and we will write letters. This is how we normally write. Then when we have to draw something, we will touch the paper and then start drawing. Touch the paper.
Yeah.
But when we are drawing something as art, you can start. So this is me making invisible lines in the air. And then I can make a line like this, where I've started the action of drawing the line just a few millimeters above. So my pencil doesn't come down first. It starts moving and then it comes down. So again, for the bottom, it starts moving and then I make the line. Then there are a few things that you don't need to make that line. Although you can absolutely make everything in that line. It always helps. But you don't have to make such a dramatic line. Like you don't have to start with a run up and then come and say, okay, now I'm going to start from here. This is going to be in the air and then I'm going to come and make contact. It's not like that. It's quite subtle. So it's, if when your hand is free, that is how you will make the lines. So when I make the eyebrows, I can easily make it with this broken line as well, because after all, it is composed of different hair. And then when I make, what you're doing right now is very methodically making the eyebrow from here and then doing this. Never let go of a line like that, ever. You must always be in control of the line. Now, if you have to be in control of the line and you need to let it disappear into the air, then the only way you can do it is, if I start very defined here, control the pressure as you pull it out. This is too little, so I'll take it a little further and then control the pressure. And over time, this becomes your habit. And then when I have to draw a line from this side as well, come slowly in, pressure, no pressure. No pressure, pressure, no pressure. So you never do this. Even when we're doing grass, we would never do this. Okay. Does that help?
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay.
How does this look?
Oh, let's see Ashwita's. 1 second, let me just pin it so I can see it better. Okay, nice. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm quite happy. I think the boat is good.
So I would suggest the space between the eyebrow and the eye, it can be a little more, especially the inner eye. So right now you've made the eyebrow like a concentric circle, or part of a concentric circle outside the eye lid, but you can extend it further and make it a little more angular. Yes, let's see. Oh, very nice. Yours is nice as well. Very good, Livia. Okay, now that you've made so many portraits before class, can you see the difference between the two? So now let's apply this formula to the eye in the reference image. The third picture that I've shared in the reference image. So we are going to plot the same lines that I've shown before. If I were to draw a line from the inner corner of the eye to the outer corner, you will notice that it's not horizontal. See? So this is again a change, a modification. This would be a horizontal line. So it's maybe 2 degrees angling up. Then we have a gap over here and see how the curve of the eye on the top is bigger, the bottom is not so big, not so round. Then we have the curve of the fold. Sorry, I'm trying my best to do this and it's not cooperating. Okay, so it's almost concentric, but see, it's a little further on the outer edge, not the inner edge. So this is different from what I asked you to do. Then if we were to measure this, the height at which we draw the eyebrow, it's about the same as the height of the eye. So we can draw a horizontal line here. Or if we were to just take it up from where the eye is, remember this is the height that we had drawn, then the eyebrow will come a little inside. And how much inside? It's even more inside than the tear duct that we have to draw. And this is the shape that it makes. And it's almost straight from the top and then comes outward. And see how this line, and this line is not really concentric. There's a lot of highlight over here. The highlights in the eye are almost a geometric shape. They look like a building shape, and they also go into the sclera, that's the white part of the eye. This fold we are not going to make, it's just a crease. We're not going to make the crow's feet. Now look at the eyelashes. They reach all the way up here. And so we know definitely that this is makeup and mascara. We can already see that. We don't even have to be told that. Okay, so I'm going to share this image with you so you can look at the references from the formula that I've shown you and how minor modifications in the same formula can be made. So this is exactly how all eyes that are looking in front can be dealt with. You have the width of the eye, you have the proportion of the pupil to the white part of the eye. Those are the things that we will notice. So shall we give it a shot? All right. Leave some room after the eye that we've drawn on top. So because you want to have enough space for the eyebrow. If you make it right here, the eyebrow will go into the previous eye. First, draw the horizontal line. And then based on, oh, let me share the image. I haven't shared it. Yeah. Now, based on that reference image, we will draw the actual angle. A little 19-20 is fine. Then based on that same picture, we will draw. You can also do this at the center of that line. You can mark the point at which we have the eyeball, and that will also help you plot the line of the eyelids. Because after all these angles are very important, getting the angles and proportions right. when you're making this tear duct, remember to not make it too big. The order of drawing everything is up to you. The membrane is somewhere over here. I prefer to draw the membranes before I draw the iris. The eyeball is always attached to the upper lid. So I will make some alterations. I'm going to reduce the size of the eye on the right a little bit. Draw the pupil. And then this odd shape of the building. And I'm going to also extend that into the sclera. In most places in anything that is organic, human, plant, animal, any place where you have things joining, those joints are never a point, like a machine. A machine will have joints which are very sharp points, a line attaching to a line. But in most organic objects, you will have folds. So you will never have these two lids coming and joining each other like a plastic object. You will have this ending in a fold, and then you have the inside of the eye as part of the fold that is still attached, but the edge of the eye is open. Over here again, you will see a few membranes on the inside. So it's important to make those lines flow into each other. Okay, then we have the eyebrow, which is here. This goes almost straight. Oh, after this, even this goes almost straight. Now, once you have these lines ready, you can erase some of the lines that you need to adjust or the formula line. So that you can start shading properly and those lines will not interfere. And whatever lines you've drawn for the upper lid, if there are multiple lines, keep them because that will look like the thick upper lid. Okay, once you've drawn this, I'm going to give you some shading tips. We haven't done too much shading in this, except for the eyebrows and the iris. But in this case, in order to make the eye look more realistic, you will notice that, in fact, the sclera is not fully white. The white section in the sclera is this highlight on the right. Everything else is a shade of gray. So we are in fact going to very delicately shade the entire eye, a little gray, very, 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 very gently. I cannot stress how very gently. That too is going to be a little deeper on top, and as you come down, it starts becoming even lighter. So you can even let go as you come towards the center and then just shade maybe the corners. Now, if you feel that it's become too dark, use the eraser to just pull up a little bit of the gray, just like this. Don't erase the whole thing, just pull up bits and pieces. That's good enough. Now, mind you, a sketch like this, if we have to make it realistic, we would probably use that paper stump to smooth all of the shading, but I don't want you to get used to that only. Now, the color of the eye is very light, but we can make it pretty much like how we have shaded the earlier eye. Make it a gray tone. And now everything will start looking really muddy and murky and almost scary. But we will build more onto this to bring out the contrast. When this is being shaded, we also shade a little bit of the rest of the space around the eye. So you'll notice that there is a highlight over here and everything else has a slight bit of a shadow. If we were to see this as a black and white image, all of these places would actually be gray. So holding the pencil really far away, you can make one slight gentle stroke. I'm in fact making lines up to this point, the center of the eyebrow, and then gently reduce it to closer to the fold. And then continue through the fold as well. This is something that most beginners don't even notice, that the skin also has certain bumps which will automatically catch the shadow. And at this point, you can shade in that crease underneath the eye. In shading these spots as well, there is a certain direction that you follow. So I would shade this sideways. That you can see just by the nature of the shadow itself. Now, no shadow at the nose bridge or the cheekbones, just underneath the eye. And I'll extend the shadow into the eyebrow area. I think my eyebrows become too large. I will never know the actual space that is going to be occupied by the eyebrow unless I start making the eyebrow. So I will shade just the base of the eyebrow to get a sense of area occupied. And then at some point, I can start making the eyebrows. So this is one way you start building up the tonal depth of the sketch. And at each stage, you start coming closer and closer to what looks like what you are making. If we go ahead and make one thing really dark and then make the other thing dark, sometimes you realize you've made a mistake and then you can't undo that mistake because everything has become too dark. With this now, even if I were to make a really fat eyebrow, I can easily just pull it lower or take it higher or do whatever. Okay, is everyone with me? I'm just going to take a minute and come back. Okay, let's start making the dark lines now. First, let's start with the pupil. Start from the center and then move outward. And as you move out, the last edge of that circle, you can make it a little fuzzy by reducing the pressure and still shading it dark. It's a little fuzzy to the right. There's a little gap between the edge of the iris as we see it and the lid from where the lashes come. If you notice it, that is because I suppose the mascara is so heavy that it's pulling the lid up. So you can see that part. Let's darken the edge of the iris. Now, even this is often not a very sharp line. It's a little fuzzy. So keep it fuzzy. Because as you can imagine, this is literally grown out of the eyeball. It's not stuck there. So it won't have a divide between the cells that become the sclera and the cells that become the lens. So the fuzzy edge makes sense. And carefully avoid the highlight. There's a little bit of a intrusion of the highlight into the iris over here. And then there is, again, a little bit of the iris visible. So here you can really enjoy making these details. I have spent numerous hours over the years, starting from the age of 15, trying to figure out how to draw eyes. And I used to bring foreign magazines from the local library and sit for 2 to 3 hours at a time, making all these eyes. That was also thanks to the fact that there was nothing else to do. We did not have cell phones or anything. TV was almost non-existent. So in a sense, I got very lucky that we were in a time of such uh, depravity as far as entertainment was concerned. I think we landed up doing a lot. Now on the lid, on the iris, you'll also notice that you see the reflection of the lashes. We'll come to that. But till that point, just try to match the gray of the shadow even underneath the eye. My lid has become so big. Going into the weird shape of the highlight, including some lines in them. If by now you will start seeing all these weird shapes inside the eye, which earlier were almost invisible. Then you'll see a little bit of a tear at the bottom.
I think I will log off now because we reached Mumbai and there'll be a
Oh,
lot of things.
wonderful. You did most of it
Thanks.
anyway. This is amazing.
Yeah, yeah. Cool. I like
Okay,
this.
so
It's nice. Good way to focus. I think every time I'm traveling this way, I should do that.
you should, because there are people who watch the videos when they're traveling.
Oh, good. Okay.
And we have so many videos now, up to 300 videos. So you can just
Oh,
turn it on, yeah, and watch all sorts from all the other batches also.
classes. Okay, bye.
Okay, bye.
Bye. Take care. Bye.
Right. So we keep adding depth to everything as we go along. Now that we've come to the eyebrow part, there's a little bit of thickness or a shadow inside this eye also, see? Just at this point. All these dark spots are shadows, and when you make shadows, you indicate depth automatically. Here we've already made quite a bit. So I'm going to start with making, I'll come back to the iris, makes maybe softer lines or something. And now I will start making the lashes. So from just a little gap from the iris, I'm going to begin. So draw a line coming straight up. Control the line. So my explanation for our line is like our kids crossing the road. You don't just let them go. You don't just hold their hand over here and say, okay, now go to the other end. You have to take the line to the other side, like you're holding your kids' hands, and ensure that it goes to the place where it should go safely, doesn't turn at any point, change track at any point. I hope you see these bumps of the lashes coming into the eye and then going outward.
I see two strokes. One is you are making the strokes of the hair, and
Mhm.
then there is the curve of the eyelid. So you are making the strokes of the eyebrows, and then you the yeah the hair, and then you are kind of making those curved lines so that it's fuzzy.
Yeah, you can do it both ways. You can, like over here, as I'm making this lash, I realize that this can get slightly thicker. I can make the line coming down from here and going up in one shot, or you can make the line coming to the lash and then take it back into
Merge
yeah,
with that.
the lid also. Either is fine. See, these things are something that you have to just be comfortable with and make them uh, in the best way possible. So many times when we are drawing, it doesn't matter whether you're drawing one way or another, as long as what you draw is telling a certain story, and all the lines together are telling the same story.
I think my lines were a little broken.
Uh-huh.
The strokes are a little broken. I mean, what I'm seeing difference between how you are making that line, it may be broken, but it's fuzzy and it's seeming like one,
Hmm.
and it's getting that shape. Broken lines are not doing the same thing.
Broken lines will not do the same thing.
Yeah.
So if you are drawing like this,
Mm. Yeah.
this is how you mean? Okay, so this
Um,
is not how you should be doing. What you should do is, if you are not sure of your line, you still make the whole line
mm.
and then make adjustments. If I make a line that's too round, make adjustments based on that. So they are still broken lines, but they go into each other.
Okay. That's not what I've done, because if I show you this line here,
Yeah.
um, I don't know if you're able to see
Huh.
the line of it was it felt more like what you did first,
Right, right.
almost like dashes, and
Yeah.
it's
So
not
that is,
merging.
no, that's just you hesitating.
Mm,
So don't hesitate. Free up your line a little bit. And
mm,
it also could be how you're sitting. If you keep your hand on your book and hold it, then you give more anchoring to your drawing hand.
mm.
That will change over time.
Sure.
Now, without the eyebrow, she's looking so stunned, poor thing. I'm going to make a few adjustments over here. And now I'll draw the eyebrows. So I'm usually very careful about the eyebrows and I start somewhere in the middle, not at the edge again. So a little on the higher side, but not all the way to the top. And look at the eyebrows when you're making them. Of course, for that matter, look at everything before you start drawing. So this is another thing that I've noticed. In class, I noticed this because I'm not there with you right now. I can't really tell. When I'm, and this is only when they are, the students in class are observing me draw, and then they are following me. They start drawing without even opening the reference image. They just look at my picture and start drawing. And in that, they are interpreting my interpretation. So they are not really looking at the data that they should be seeing. Now, in class, in our online class, I'm not aware of which.
That happens with me also. I start seeing you.
Guilty as charged.
Yeah,
Same.
and it's bound to happen because I don't have any reference illustration. I keep looking at the reference image, and generally because of the speed of things and all, you want to look at something once and you want to start as soon as possible and finish it. So at this point, especially with portraits, it is very important to look at the, of course, look at what I'm doing as well as the original reference image. Because you need to verify that what I am seeing, I'm basically just showing you the stroke, how you should do it. But where you should do it, whether it makes sense or not to your eyes, is something that you need to gauge. And in the practice that we do in class, there's only so much that I can tell you. So this is like, imagine if you're traveling and you're asking for directions and you called me and you say, okay, what do I have to do? I've come to so-and-so corner. Now from here, where do I go? So then all I can tell you is come to, say, this so-and-so shop. This is what the name of the shop is. When you come there, you take a right or a left. But you will have to keep your wits about you, come to that shop, read the sign and say, yes, this is the shop she spoke about. Now I have to make a right. So I can tell you directions, come from A to B, B to C, C to D, and then you're at my house. To verify whether A is A or B is B, and then take the turn is your job. Similarly, I can tell you draw this, then that. This is how you draw the line, this line, that is how you draw that line. But is this what you see on your book? Is something that you need to verify looking at the reference image yourselves. Now, all the dark shading that we had done can often throw you off. So if it is looking too unnatural, again, it's possible that the skin beyond your sketching has not been shaded. Once you start shading that, it all starts making sense. Normally, we do not do all these things, huh? All the shading of the inside of the eye and all, because it can become really, really ugly. But I need you to know that there is a shadow there. And now I will use the paper stump. But if you have it, you can also use it. But use it very gently. The paper stump can sometimes darken an area more than you want it to be, simply because it will spread that graphite so smoothly over that what was sitting as a stack of graphite suddenly gets spread out. I'm not a big fan of using the paper stump, but I cannot deny the outcome is absolutely stunning. Everything just suddenly becomes very smooth. It does make you a little lazy, so I'm not going to say you should do this for class. But I would be remiss if I don't tell you that this is an option and you can have a lot of fun with this as well. Now, these are the points where you can use your eraser as a tool. And make a small sharp tip of this and use it to lighten lines or make certain highlights. Sometimes you can also use a very sharp eraser tool, which is now available everywhere, to create that. There's a little lightness in the middle of the iris. I'll create that with the eraser and then spread the lead one more time. Okay, so that's it. At this stage, if you feel brave enough, you can attempt the texture created by the lashes inside the eyes. This is now going very meta. I used to think if I could do this, I'd be the greatest artist on the planet. So I would put myself through hours and hours of agony. And then, of course, it is always satisfying at the end of the agony. This ecstasy.
What is the pencil you have used for this regular pencil or?
This is a Camlin drawing pencil.
Okay.
It's called Camlin Supreme Smooth and Dark. All of that smooth and dark is now gone on the pencil. But
So is that a HB or is that a 2B?
I feel this is a 2B pencil.
Okay. Because I do feel that what's happening with me is I'm putting a little bit of a pressure is what I see because I want to get it dark. I'm finding for you the strokes in your picture are coming much smoother. So I think this would be.
It's the pencil itself is soft. So it's a soft dark pencil. That's one. Second is in drawing, I do a combination of holding the pencil sideways to do the shading. So it automatically starts getting sharper and then alternate between that shading and fine line, and shading and fine line. So you don't have to really physically sharpen every time. Sometimes I've started with a very blunt pencil also, and then shaded enough, then check the point. Now the point also may not be like this one single point. There are edges that form on the pencil, which again you will start instinctively feeling. You know that if you turn the pencil just a little bit, somewhere over there, you will be able to get an edge from where you get a sharp line. So these things are just part of habit now. The pencil is now pretty much an extension of my hand. So I can understand these things. But do not use an HB pencil when you're doing something like this. You just don't get the range of dark and light.
I think that's what has happened with me, because whatever was in front of me was HB. And it's so I am seeing that I'm putting a lot of pressure, and I don't see you making any effort in moving. There is a lot of pressure I have been putting, so I'll work with that and use this third image to
Yes.
Yeah. Because what's happening is in the inner part of the eye, it's extremely difficult to shade.
Yeah, you won't, I mean, you'll get something, but it's not convincing. In fact, the HB pencil will give you the shade we need, honestly speaking. With 2B pencil, you might make it a little darker than is necessary. Just in the beginning, because you're not used to the tones. You wouldn't know which one is accurate. So it may happen that you make it a little darker. So HB pencil is safer for the very, very light sections, but without pressure.
Another maybe a little dumb question is, do you sharpen the pencil with blade or sharpener?
Sometimes blade, sometimes sharpener. So when we do very refined pencil shading and portraiture, they do, you would actually use a blade and bring the lead down to the pencil down to this size and expose about an inch of the lead also. But for now, you can just use a regular sharpener. I've just used a regular sharpener this time. This is good enough for our level for a long time.
Sure. Thank you.
So this is what I've done.
Oh, nice.
Okay, nice.
Okay.
Looking good, yeah.
Yeah.
We'll practice at least some of the eyes.
Yeah,
Some of the eyes.
practice, and if you feel like it, just practice the same side eye, just the right eye of the reference. In cases I've given you 2 eyes as well, ignore the left eye, only make the right eye. And if you start feeling comfortable and you want the challenge, then do draw both eyes. One tip is then practice the left eye separately. And then after making the left eye, then draw the right eye. Usually that works better for me.
Okay.
Okay, so great.
Yeah.
If you have the time, please make some notes about what you felt was working, what wasn't working, because when you try something new for the first time, which you feel you are going to do a lot of, these notes come in handy. At least something in your brain that you feel right now has been put down. And in later practice, that will come back to you. Even if you don't read the notes, that will definitely come back to you, and you know how to make your micro adjustments.
Sure. Thank you so much.
Sorry to interrupt. My eyelashes are not right? This side, the eyelashes of this side are too big, right?
No, they're not too big, but they're too regular.
Too regular.
Yeah, so they are like, they are definitely like one of those fake lashes from the 90s.
Okay.
The fake lashes nowadays are so beautiful.
Yeah.
The types who could wear them, I'll look like such a tart. That's why I don't wear them. But they look very nice.
Yeah. They need to be irregular, right? Some big, some small.
No, not some big, some small. So from the center to the outward, they start becoming bigger and bigger.
Okay.
center to inward, they become smaller and smaller.
Smaller.
But
Okay.
when I say keep them irregular, means that don't distribute them evenly.
Okay.
And they will, very few of them are standing by themselves. Very often they bunch up together. So always
That's
draw
one
the
thing. They come together
triangular.
in some triangular kind of a shape.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Fine.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. So don't write down all these things you
Okay.
what you noticed.
And
Sure.
6 o'clock again next time.
Yes. Yes. So this is our regular time, 6 o'clock.
6
And
o'clock.
next week also it'll be the same. So I'll see you next week. We'll do nose and mouth then.
Thank you.
Yeah, that will be
Okay.
nice.
Bye.
Okay. Bye. Thank you. Take care.